two, one.
Welcome again to Room 1221 Live. You already know. This is where we have all the honest, guilt-free, judgment-free conversations around your sexual reproductive health. And as always, I'm joined by two very resourceful, very respected women in the sexual health space, Auntie Lydia and Edwina. Welcome back to the show.
Thank you.
Could you please introduce yourselves for those of them who don't know you?
I'm Portia Kofa Akumi, also known as Auntie Lydia, and I host a youth-friendly program on all the Lydia contraceptive pages, which is the Auntie Lydia Show. So it's basically about sexual and reproductive health, busting myths and misconception about contraception. And I'm a brand consumer advisor as well.
Thank you, Auntie Lydia. Welcome back to Romantic One. Edwina.
Okay, so my name is Edwina Pinto, and I'm a counseling psychologist at the University of Ghana Careers and Counseling Center.
Welcome, Edwina. It's awesome to have you both back on the show. So today we're talking about how to speak about sex with your parents. This one is quite a dicey conversation, when it comes to even how they look at you, when to bring it up, what to say. Auntie Lydia and Edwina are here for you. So let me start with both of you, actually. I don't think it's an easy thing to do, to walk up to mommy or daddy and say, what's the sex? I'm having sex. Anything sex related is not very easy. Why is it so hard?
I think Edwina should start.
Yeah, I mean, our parents are our parents. They are adults. Talking to an adult about anything sexual is some way. Even talking to our own peers about something sexual is some way. So can you imagine if it is your mother and all that? And especially when you've not had such conversation with them before, and then now you have to tell your mother that I've started having sex, so what should I do? That it sounds very weird in both ears and all that. So I think that is why. It's because we see our parents as some big people, adults and grown-ups and all that. That's why it seems to be a little bit weird. Yeah.
It's Lydia.
Yeah, it's basically the same thing. And it also depends on the kind of home or the family you are from. If you are from a home where it's easier for you to communicate with your parents, you can tell them anything. It's easier for you to have that communication. But then if you have strict parents, even if maybe they are strict because they just want you to do better and all that, you still feel like something in relation to sexual health or something, it may be difficult to have that conversation with them. And also we see them as, like our parents, like these are big people, and this is a very serious conversation to have with them. They are not, and like she said, our peers. It's even difficult to speak to your peers about something of that sort. So it's going to be difficult to just look at maybe your dad and say, okay, daddy, I want to start having sex. How do I go about it? It's going to be really difficult. So it depends on the kind of parents you have or the home that you're coming.
Okay. All right. Thank you. But the conversation is still necessary. So how do we open it up? Let me split it so that it's easier for us. Edwina, for the parents, you're a parent, you think that your child is, reaching the age where they should start learning about the bees and the birds. How do you bring it up?
Yeah, so I think that first of all, you have to start when they are very young. So when you start having certain conversations about their private parts, how to name them properly, not letting someone touch this part and all that, it helps you. So when they grow up to every stage of their life, you know how to bring that conversation up. But when you just leave it as a parent, and then when they are now maybe teenagers, and then you just come and pop up, come and sit down, let's have this conversation, it will sound very weird. So I think that as parents, you need to start having this conversation as they are young. Maybe someone even say as young as 2 years old. So far as when they reach the stage where they begin to understand what you are saying, or even listen to what you are saying, hear what you are saying, that is when you start having sexual conversations with them. Maybe at the age of 2 years is to protect them. But when they move from 2 to maybe 5 years, it's also to protect them. But when they get to a teenage age, maybe they're in GHS or they're moving to secondary school, then it's not only about protecting them, it's also about telling them the facts, what is out there. Because the generation of children we have now, you think that they don't know, but then they are on social media, they are using their phones 24/7. So whatever you think you are not going to tell them, they will hear from somebody else.
Yes.
And why is it not better if they rather hear the good one from you, the parents, than going to hear it from social media, who probably will be luring them to somewhere else? So I think that parents should start having this conversation very early so that you don't reach a stage where it becomes weird in the child's ears when you come and say that let's talk about sex. Come and sit down, let me tell you about which contraceptives you should take. It sounds very weird in their ears. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Edwina. Once, Lydia, what about to the kids? If I feel like I have questions for mommy or daddy, what should I do? Where do I start?
Okay, so I think you should start little by little. You don't just hit them with the hard questions or whatever. So, growing up, maybe you realize you've started growing, pubic hair growing at some places, maybe, your roots are getting bigger and all that. You can have that conversation with them. Oh, I noticed that I'm seeing some hair here and there. And it doesn't even have to get to that point because, like Edwina said, you should start talking to them early. So maybe when it gets to that point, they already know. Assuming you didn't have that conversation with them and then the kids, okay, we are talking about the kids. So assuming your parents didn't have that conversation with you, you can just go to them and start by, I've seen this here, I've seen that here. So that opens the conversation and you start talking about different things and all that. Or assuming you went to school and they talked about condoms, you heard something, you can tell them, oh, I went to school and then they educated us on condoms and they said condoms are used for this and that. Then I want you to be the one to give me more information about it. So in a way, you're making your parent feel like you trust them. So you say, okay, so mommy or daddy, I heard this, but then I want you to explain it to me because when we were told, I didn't really understand what it meant. You're a parent to start. Or maybe at a young age, a guy hits on you or a lady showing some advances towards you and all that. And tell your parents, maybe Kweku said he likes me. Or Amma says she likes me. So I'm a little confused. Can you tell me? Then the conversation starts from there. Or you can, this is going to be a bit difficult, but you can start saying, oh, I really like Kweku. That's going to be difficult though, but it depends on how you say it too. Maybe with me from the home that I grew up in, we didn't talk about sex early. Like, they didn't talk to me about sex early, but I remember when I, started menstruating, my dad would just randomly throw something in there and about sex.
Yeah.
He didn't he didn't make it scary though, but then he threw something in there. Okay, at this age, when you have sex, you get pregnant. You're a student. If you get pregnant, you won't be able to continue your education and all those things. So maybe if I had opened up to tell him that, okay, maybe I started feeling this way, it would have also opened. It's a bit controversial, but I think that can help. And I read somewhere, I don't know if it applies in Ghana though, that you can write a letter to your parents and then voice out. I mean, she's a counselor, so maybe she can take it up from there and voice out how you feel in the letter and then maybe.
Yeah. So for what she said, I will say that first of all, know the type of parents you have. I mean, every child knows the type of mother and father they have.
Yes.
So if you know that your parents are going to hit hard when you start this conversation, maybe one way is to maybe talk to somebody who you trust and your parents also trust that person to start this conversation with you. And then with the letter, yes, you can actually write a letter or even a note and things and write it to them, tell them about everything you want to tell them. and drop it in their hall. They'll be curious to open it. Maybe at that stage, first of all, we need to understand that, especially when you're in certain generations, when you have the older parents, they didn't grow up in our generation where it's easy to say things like this. So first of all, it's going to be very uncomfortable for them. If you have such parents, it's very uncomfortable for them. Understand that it is uncomfortable for them. But then some way, somehow, they'll be happy that you're actually coming to them to talk to them about such things. And then they'll open up more and all that. Even the parents that we think that are very difficult parents, when you start such conversations with them, I mean, at that time, they'll resist a little, but then later on, they'll get used to it and they'll want to come. They are excited that, hey, my daughter came to actually ask me about these things and all that. So when you write the note, today I will come and tell you that, okay, I saw this note, so let's talk about it and things. Of course, we have the difficult ones too. Who
I was just about to ask. Personally, when I was younger, I tried that. I wrote my mom a letter. I'll just say it didn't go well. It did not go well. I received a beating in my lifetime. But my question is, for those who try it and get in trouble, what should they do?
Yeah, I think that if you try it and you get in trouble, you start that conversation, maybe you could just tell your parents that it's not that I'm doing it all. It's just that I wanted to get it from your point of view. I wanted to understand it because now parents know social media has so many things over there. So I want to get it from your side instead of going on social media to just pick up anything from there. And as I said, sometimes it's uncomfortable talking to certain parents. Look for a trusted person, somebody you trust, somebody your parents also trust. Because nowadays, there are lots of older people who are taking advantage of people. So make sure that your parents also trust that person. Have this conversation and you can even tell the person you want to have it with your mother and father, but you know the way they are. So you want to go with them to have this conversation with them. And then, I mean, young people, sometimes I like to say it's good to talk to your counselors who will help you. But of course, they have to be counselors you also trust. So when you trust them, they can also guide and help you on how to tell your parents when it comes to such matters. Yeah.
Thank you, Edwina. And so, Idia, do you have anything to add?
Just basically said everything that I was thinking about, and that's it. And okay, so what if both parents are strict in this situation? I had a lot of aunties, and okay, I was closer to my aunties than I was to my uncles. So my parents weren't strict. I think my dad was very strict, but then not to that extent, like you couldn't speak to him about anything. But then if there was a situation where my dad or my mom was upset with me or gave me a beating for that, I would have spoken to my aunties. I would have reached out to some of my aunties and I would have told them this and this. But then I'm a 90s babe, to be honest. I didn't tell anyone anything. I just kept everything to myself. But then I had siblings as well. And my other sister actually went through it than I did. Maybe because she was a firstborn. Dad was strict. When he heard she used to work with this particular boy, he was upset. No, don't work with this. But then when it came to me, I think, like you said, they think about it and then later on they change. I don't know. Yeah. It was so different with me. He easily spoke to me about, something, not necessarily about sex. Like I said, he just told me, we have sex, you get pregnant and all that. He said everything to my mom, and my mom started talking to me about sex. She spoke about condom use, but she wasn't telling me go and have sex and use a condom, but she was just telling me, condom, it's like it gives you protection against AIDS. At the time, they don't say sexually transmitted, they just say AIDS. Every STI was AIDS. Yeah, so it protects you from AIDS and then you don't get pregnant. But she never said I should go and have sex. I mean, the church was doing a good job saying all those things to me, scaring me like, we have sex, you're going to hell. So they didn't have much to do. They just told me, you use a condom, you do this. They weren't telling me to go and have sex, but I knew that if I'm supposed to have sex, I'm supposed to use a condom. But assuming they were very strict and then they shut me out or whatever, I would have spoken to my aunties. And now we have counselors. I don't know if at the time there were counselors. I don't remember.
We didn't have a lot.
I don't think so. Maybe I would have spoken to the counselor. But now we have counselors, and then that's really, really good. So I would have chosen maybe a counselor or spoken to my auntie. So if you are in any of this, if you find yourself in this situation, just speak to someone else. And then
You can call 1221. Auntie Lydia is always here for you.
Yeah.
So, Auntie Lydia and Edwina, there's also the conversation around strict parents raising the naughtiest, most sneaky kids. What do you have to say about that? Let me start with Auntie Lydia.
Okay. So I actually had friends who were sexually active at a very early age.
Yeah.
And they had very strict parents. Both parents were strict. They always found, some hidden ways of doing their stuff. And when they are done, they come to speak to me. And I didn't know anything about it. So I just gave them the listening ear. I didn't know anything about it. I just listened. So I just gave them the listening ear. So I actually taught, I think at the age of maybe 15, 16, I actually thought emergency pills were for headaches. Because I didn't know what it was. When they mentioned the name, I thought maybe she had a headache and she took it. So I just listened to her and I was just like, they always find, and their parent thought, oh, my child, she wouldn't do this, she wouldn't do that. But my God, her body count, even at a very early age, was really high.
Mm-hmm.
And so it doesn't help being strict. You should be strict, like do your homework, do this, do that. But then try and be a little bit flexible. Not flexible enough for them to, if the thing is, if you don't do it, someone else will do it for you. If you don't give them that information, someone else, like social media. At the time, there was no social media, my time. But we had friends who would tell you. I mean, I was in school and my friends were like, and my boyfriend, he bought me a necklace and then he wore it for me and he gave me a hat. And it was like, oh, because I'm watching telenovelas and you are living that telenovela life. So I was really admiring him. Oh my God, this is beautiful. And he gave me a kiss and it was so nice. It was so romantic. I didn't really know what romance was, but I knew the word romantic, so it was so romantic. Like, oh, so if you don't do it, someone else will parent your child for you. So just be a little bit flexible.
So there's a saying that says that the more you say no to somebody, the more curious the person becomes.
Yes.
Wants to actually delve in it. Mm-hmm. So the more you are hard on your child and you are not even giving the child the right information, you are just being hard on her, the more she gets more curious, or the more he gets more curious and wants to explore and see what it's about. So it's good to be a little bit strict on your parents, because our parents were strict to us and we turned out right. Mm-hmm. Some way, somehow we turned out right. So there's nothing wrong with being strict with your parents. It's to the extent in which you are being strict to your children. Yeah. If you are being too strict in the sense that they can't actually open up to you again, they can't talk to you again, and before they even come, they know your answer. Your answer is already no, and things. Then they don't want to explore. So they'll find means and ways. And these are young people. They'll find means and ways to find what they are looking for. And they'll go and find it from the wrong place. So in order to avoid all these things, it's better, even though you are strict on certain things, when it comes to sexuality and your child's sexual behaviors and all those things, you need to stand strong, but then you need to also come up as a parent that wants to listen to the child. And so the child will want to open up to you and all that. And if you tell your child that, okay, if you are telling the child why the child shouldn't do something, you shouldn't just say, don't do it. Don't have sex. But you're not even explaining to them why they shouldn't have sex. You're not explaining to them why they shouldn't take this particular contraceptive, or they should use a condom and all that. I think that young people nowadays have reached an age that before you tell them something, they are asking why. I have a niece. If you tell her something, she'll tell you why. That's the first thing that comes out of her mouth. Why? So if she wants to know why you're telling her not to do this, don't just say don't do it. Explain to her why she shouldn't do it. Then when you explain to her, it's easy for them to understand why they shouldn't do it and all that. Than you saying that, no, I said don't do it. They'll go and ask their friend, and their friend will now explain to them why the mother said don't do this, and will explain it the way that child understands. Or social media will explain it how social media wants to explain it to the child. So if you are being strict, you need to know that there's a limit to this strictness that you are giving to the child. If you need to be, strict, but then explain things to them. Don't just brush them off and all that. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Now, let's talk about trust. Building trust among the parents and the kids. Before we can talk about anything in any context, we must have a level of trust among us, right? So let me start with you, Auntie Lydia. How do I know, first of all, that I can trust my parents well enough for them to, one, not go and air my dirty laundry? Because some of the parents do not just blast you at home. They'll go and tell Uncle Kwabna and Auntie Amanda, this is my child. This is my child. They are very, very promiscuous. Meanwhile, you just asked about kissing or something.
Yeah.
So how do I know that I can trust my parents?
Like we said before, it's just, you just know the type of parent that you have.
Yeah.
I always use myself for example because that's the best example that I can give. My mom didn't really like talking. She was always very quiet. And then she would ask you certain questions, like I said, the menstruation and all those things. My dad used to buy us pad, a box of pad. I think it was a way he was trying to use to monitor if we were still menstruating, to be honest. He had a box of pad for us. So when it finishes, he's expecting you to come and ask him for money to buy it. So I remember after SS, I started working for some job I was doing. So I was so uncomfortable going to ask my dad to give me money to buy it. So I just went to buy it myself. This man panicked when he realized that for like 2 months, no one had come to him to ask him. And he didn't come straight out. He went to my mom and said, have you not noticed the box is empty and no one has asked you anything? So then my mom came to me and said, your father is worried. He's asking me because, well, she trusted me. And I think that also made me feel like she trusts me, so I can also trust and this too. So she just came to me and she was like, you haven't come to ask your dad for money for pad. He's worried though. Are you menstruating? And I said, I've been buying it myself. So she went to tell him that she's buying it herself. So I went to my dad and I told him, oh, Daddy, when they paid you, I bought some and then my sister and I said, okay, I know why I'm buying it for you. So when it finishes, tell me, let me buy it for you. I said, okay. So I went to tell my sister. So this is what he said. So having these kind of parents, I feel like I can easily go to them and tell them anything. But my personality was different. I kept things to myself. I just didn't want to have them in my business. Not because maybe they will ask me questions. I felt like it was a taboo at the time to go to my parents and then go and tell them anything about relationship or boyfriend or anything. I personally felt like it was a taboo. So I don't know how you would feel. Maybe it's easier for you to go to. I had parents who were trusting. They trusted us to a fault. They knew we weren't going to do anything. Like I said, they threw it in there, asked us questions about talk to us about sex once in a while and all that. But I knew that I had parents that I can easily go to at any time and go and say anything to. Though my dad was strict and sometimes I was afraid of him, but I still felt like if I spoke to him about that, he'll just be quiet. That's one thing about my dad. He'll be quiet. Maybe he'll go and think about it and come and give you an answer. But then he wouldn't shut me down. So I knew the parents that I have. So you should also know the parents that you have. And then when it comes to the parents, like I said, just be a little bit flexible and a little bit open-minded. Don't be too, strict. Because if you don't parent your child, someone else.
So I would say that trust is built from a very young age. If your child is talking to you and he's saying just anything to you, today this is what happened to me in school, and you go blabbing it up to your auntie or your niece that this is what my child said, you've lost the trust of the child. Because the child knows that something as simple as this, you've gone to tell somebody else. You think you are telling everybody about your child, but the child will lose that trust. So as parents, I'll say that you start to build this trust with your child from the young age. So if your child is telling you something and you are going out telling somebody, before they realize the church is calling you that you did this and your mother said you did this, and your child has lost trust. Yeah. So now it's now difficult to come with sensitive things because the normal things you've already gone to say it. So sensitive things like their sexual health and things, they are scared that if I come and talk to you and say that maybe I'm having sex, I'm telling my mother that I've started having sex. Oh, no, sex is okay. Maybe that's even extreme. I have a boyfriend now. I think I like somebody. And things. I know the next minute my aunties all know that I have a boyfriend. Or I have a crush on somebody. It won't let the child want to open up and now have a conversation. So I think that for the parents, you should just understand that you start to build this trust whilst they were young, and they learn all these things that at this age I could tell my mother anything and she won't tell anybody. Confidentiality was top and all that. So now even with this, I can talk to my mother. I can trust that if I tell her, she's not going to tell anyone. Maybe even tell your father about it, and easily lose the trust with their children or their children. So with the children, if you are also being secretive and you are hiding things from your mother, when you're sitting in the hall watching a movie or something, you receive a call, then you leave the hall, you go and hide in the corner to pick the call. Your parents will start to lose their trust in you.
Oh yeah.
What is it you are saying that you can't say in front of them?
Yes.
And things. On your phone, you're always hiding it. I mean, when you're sitting with your mother, your phone is turned the other way because you don't want her to see what. I mean, they'll start to suspect that something is going on. That is why this child is hiding things from you. So that's where you also lose the trust of your parents. Yeah. So I think in all, everybody just has to open up. The parents have to open up more. And even sometimes, share your experience. The parents should share their experience with their children. Yes. Because when the parents share their experience and their mother is telling them what she went through when she was young, the crashes she had, because sometimes we think that our parents are gods. They've never had crash, and you wonder that they just bumped into marriage without having a crash. But when the mother tells you that she also had a crash when she was young, and this happened, and that happened, and all that, you can relate to it, and then it makes it easy for that conversation to go on. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much, Edwina. Thank you, Auntie Lydia. And viewer, you heard them. Right. If you have anything to talk to your parents about, don't be shy. Just, scope, gauge their mood, scope and gauge who your parents are, and then tread very carefully, but still go anyway. Now, Auntie Lydia and Edwina, before we say goodbye to our viewers, do you have any last words for them?
Okay, so I like to say that the healthiest young people are not those who don't like to take risk and those who don't like to share their information with, the right people, their parents. They are people who, are people who are more informed by the right, getting information from the right place, and getting answers to the information from the right place. I'm using the word right place because information you can get it from anywhere. But which one is the right one? Which one is the good one? Which one are you supposed to take? And all that. So it's good to have this conversation with your parents. Don't see them as gods. They are the ones who gave birth to you. They know that your parents were once young people they've also gone through whatever you think to see that you're going through. You've gotten a heartbreak. Maybe your mother has gotten a heartbreak. It will be worse than yours
Oh, yes.
and all that. So don't see her as a god. Have this conversation with her because you need to get the right conversation from the right answers from the right people.
Yeah. Thank you.
So nothing tops what Edwina has said. But then as Auntie Lydia, I'm always here for you. So if you can't speak to your parents, you can always send us a message or call us on 1221 and we'll try to assist you in one way or the other.
Thank you, Auntie Lydia. Thank you for joining us, Edwina and Auntie Lydia. It's always a pleasure to have you on Room 1221 Live. Viewer, you heard Auntie Lydia. I don't have to repeat it again. If you have any problems, please do not hesitate to reach out to us on 1221. We'll always be here for you. As always, I have been your host, Ivy, and it's been an awesome episode. Catch you on the next one. Goodbye.
Room 1221. Room 1221.